That's why I've got to just give you my.
Thanks.
Remember that.
Yeah, there I am. There it's ready. Exciting.
I can slip my phone. Ready. Call this meeting of Board of Supervisors together. Supervisor Frazier, please lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the clerk to do a roll call.
Mr. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer? Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier? Here. Mr. Drossy?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Ms. Steck? Here. Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Runyon? Here. Chairman Garrity?
Here.
Foreman Randall.
Okay, first item of business, privilege of floor and public comment. Does anybody wish to address the board this morning? Being some. Next will be a motion to approve the minutes of the March 17th board meeting, subject to correction by the clerk. Motion by Supervisor Bruno, second by Supervisor Frazier. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, next we have the presentation employee of the month. This person should be no stranger to the Board of Supervisors. She's been here for a few years. She does an excellent job. She's one of the first smiley faces you see when you go into the county attorney's office. So with that being said, I'll ask County Attorney Elman if he would like to say a few words on his employee. This is Amy Turka.
Amy, why don't you come on up here? Thank you. Amy Turcott is a selfless public servant who consistently executes her substantial job requirements with professionalism and precision on a daily basis. As the office legal coordinator for the county attorney's office, Amy not only coordinates calendars and tasks between myself and the attorneys in our office, but more importantly, she directly and indirectly coordinates with each of you, the backbone of Warren County's workforce. From the chairman of the board to the committee chairs, each of the individual members of the Board of Supervisors, and all of our county's outstanding department heads, special staff members, and the numerous vendors for Warren County, as well as some other legal entities such as courts. Amy coordinates with all of these organizations and groups, and it's crucial to our department because it keeps us moving forward in our daily mission every day. She ensures that the accurate, efficient, and timely preparation of a tremendous amount of draft documents, some of which are the resolutions before you today and the numerous contractual agreements which the county enters into every single year. You may not know about Amy that she also monitors, watches, listens to every single board and committee meeting that occurs on a monthly basis in Warren County. She does this to ensure that she's immediately collecting the information that she needs and my department needs, so that she can be detail-oriented and complete in preparing the documents that she needs to keep this county moving, moving forward. Now, while some people in Warren County may consider Amy's mere ability to watch, listen, and focus upon every single county meeting as a Herculean task in and of itself, in addition to that, I have to note that not only does she do that, but she does it while she's multitasking and accomplishing her regular work each and every time there's a meeting that she's monitoring. Amy's in her 5th year here of public service at Warren County. And she came here after 7 years of working with one of the, with 2 of the most outstanding trial attorneys, certainly in the city of Albany, but probably in the state of New York. And I wanted to publicly thank and acknowledge Mary Cassin, the Warren County attorney who's here today in support of Amy, not only for being here today to support Amy in this honor with me, but also to thank her for having the good sense and ability to convince Amy to come here for county employment. I know Mary and I both agree that Amy has enabled each of us to focus on the core legal questions that come before us every day. And we can do that because we know in the background, Amy is keeping the ship moving forward in the direction it has to move. And for that, I thank her. And I would ask everybody on behalf of the county to thank and recognize Amy Turcott as the Employee of the Month.
I know that Amy's not a loss for words, but,
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Larry for not hiring me. And I want to thank all the department heads. They get back to me right away if I need them to. Yeah, they make my time.
okay, we'll go right into, next will be a public hearing. I'll ask the clerk to read the, notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of a proposed local law number 3 for the year 2023. A local law providing that no exemption under real property tax law section 487 will be applicable within the jurisdiction of the County of Warren with respect to any solar or wind energy farm or farm waste energy system. Notice is further given that pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Board of Supervisors on March 17th, 2023, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors on April 21st, 2023 at 10 a.m. in the Supervisors rooms at the Warren County Municipal Center, 1340 State Route 9, Queensboro, New York, at which time and place all persons related and interested in the matter of such proposed local law number 3 for the year 2023 will be heard concerning same. A copy of said local law is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address, and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Okay, this has been discussed in committee and discussed by the county attorney. Would anybody like to hear, further explanation of this, proposal of the law? Supervisor McGowan.
Well, to hear, I have a question on that. We talked about resolution, floor resolution number 4. No. Is this just, on the solar?
It's on solar,
Huh?
Resolution number 194.
190. What is it?
194.
194.
Okay, I'll wait. Thank you. Sorry.
Anybody from the public wish to address this, local law? Any further discussion from the committee or from the supervisor? Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, does this preclude any pilots?
I'll ask the county attorney.
After its effective date, it would preclude pilots.
It would include.
Yes.
And that would be resolution number 4.
No, we're referring to the proposed local law. That's resolution number 194 of 2023. It would be entitled, if passed, local law 3 of 2023. And it is, there is a potential for some confusion. The floor resolution, which the supervisor from Queensboro is referencing, was for a solar project that provided notice prior to the county enacting a local law. So therefore, that there is a pilot agreement for the resolution that's before the board today. However, the local law that's here for public hearing is the much larger, broader issue of the position the county is potentially going to take, depending on the vote, of opting out of the exemption that's provided by the real property tax.
Supervisor Beatty?
So this, local law, no more exemptions. Okay. The one that we're gonna be voting on, resolution 4, basically is still getting, they're getting a pilot, they're asking for a 15-year pilot, so made it kind of inconsistent. If, you know, they're saying, well, you got under the bell or something, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to me personally. I can see the contradiction. Thought process. Okay.
All right.
If I can just clarify, because the appearance of that contradiction, and I acknowledge that it looks, it could have the potential to be confusing. However, the local law is not effective until it's enacted. So
Right.
should we next week get a notice or a notification, well, in the near future, if we get another notice or notification of a solar project, we actually won't. Because this local law will get filed with the state, and then those developers will know before they move forward that Warren County has removed the exemption, so therefore they don't have to give notice. But the notice for AC Power, I believe, came in August of 2022. The board in September approved by resolution moving forward with a pilot, and the best practice was to ensure the entire board saw the pilot and the terms. Because the September resolution, we had not negotiated the final terms yet at that point. So this is really culminating and wrapping up what started back in August of 2022, but the board approved by resolution in September of 2022. And the floor resolution for AC Power closes that matter as the county now moves forward with what's before the county for local law 3 of 2020.
Supervisor Trout?
Yeah, thank you. Exempting out of 487 is an option that we decided to take, given the history that we've seen of pilot programs and so forth. I just want to note that opting out of 487 does not mean that they automatically have to pay full county tax. However, and it doesn't prohibit them from negotiating with the county a tax arrangement that the county is up to. I just wanted to make clear that opting out of 487 still leaves negotiation on behalf of solar things in the county to go forward.
Any other questions? Supervisor McDowell?
Just a quick observation, and I think maybe to maybe piggyback on what Supervisor Strauss said, it seems to me that leaving the discretion and option open for a local municipality to negotiate a pilot agreement goes back to local control of any municipality of establishing and ensuring their ability to negotiate a plan, a program which is in the best interest of that individual community. In fact, obviously, is what Queensbury, I think, is doing.
Anybody else for a first question? You've already spoken, you've already spoken. Public comment? You want? Yeah, sure.
I just have a question.
Do you want to state your name just?
Oh, I'm sorry, Nicholas Collins. I live in Glens Falls. That law that or regulation you're opting out of, will prevent, at least countywide, individual homeowners from installing solar and getting the tax exemption. Because that was tied to the law. Now, I don't know how it affects, from this point on, anybody in Glens Falls or anybody in Warren County. Also, I heard once before in one of the meetings about where this was being discussed. And I believe Queensbury School opted out of this right from the start. So it doesn't affect Queensbury school taxes. It shouldn't. They were already opted out. And if you look at the state, go to the state website. But my concern is for the individual homeowner. Because now, how do you determine what part of that home solar is taxable and not taxable for county purposes?
If I could address that concern. Thank you, Mr. Collins. I appreciate your comments, and hopefully it'll help eliminate any misconceptions. The statute that the county is considering opting out of an exemption for does not apply for homeowners. It only applies for certain energy systems that are governed and monitored by the state of New York for the purpose of generating energy. We local, the general term is farms, solar farms or wind farms. It is not, no portion of the local law that the county is considering today has any impact on a residential installation of solar or wind for residential use. But I'm very certain that there's no connection between residential property use of solar and these solar farms that are referenced in the statute for the exemption.
Anybody else from the board who hasn't spoken have a question? Okay, Mr. Webb.
Mr. Chairman, more of a statement than a question. Just to have everyone recall, the reason why we're opting out is because if it doesn't happen, if we don't respond to a request within 60 days, it's automatically given to them. They automatically get the tax breaks. So what we're saying is by opting out, we're saying that we can negotiate with whoever would like to do these projects. But we don't guarantee the fact that they're going to get tax incentive. In addition to this, there is, as being a member of the IDA, the Industrial Development Agency, there were a number of solar projects that were in front of the board seeking tax incentives. We spent a lot of time looking at the law, looking at what the state's doing. I had a personal issue with the IDA giving additional benefits because they were getting federal and state benefits to begin with. But it appears as though that the state has moved forward or is moving forward with a brand new approach towards the assessment and taxing of these commercial facilities, which voids any kind of benefit that the developers would get by seeking pilots. So these projects that were presented in front of the IDA have since gone away. So, I think I might again confuse people because I'm not trying to do that. But the bottom line for this local law is to allow us to negotiate and not allow these developers to automatically get the tax breaks. It's the sole purpose.
I would not be fulfilling my legal obligation if I don't make it 100% abundantly clear to every supervisor who's considering this local law today, that there is absolutely, from a legal opinion perspective, there is absolutely, positively no ability of Warren County to negotiate a pilot agreement with an entity that is installing a solar energy system in Warren County once you pass this local law. The purpose of this local law is to opt out of the automatic exemption that will apply to a solar energy or wind farm that is siting itself in Warren County. Period. The statute, if local law 3 of 2023 is not approved by the board today, then we continue in the one-on-one approach to addressing solar and wind farms in Warren County and requiring individual pilots to determine how much of a reduction each project will receive for their proposed energy system that's being installed. So again, going back to floor resolution number 3 regarding AC power, that's before the board today because Warren County has not opted out of this statute, so therefore the county is required to negotiate a pilot for reduced taxes, or if you don't notify of that intent within 60 days, you get no taxes on the improvement that's created by the solar farm. Local law 3 enables the county to receive the full taxable benefit of the improvements on a solar farm if it's passed today.
Supervisor Dickinson.
When you say we, the county, you're talking about this board?
On what part? The board, obviously, on local law.
Reviewing these applications and determining the tax exempts.
Yeah, well, the reality is, as we will get to when we hit AC power, is we don't necessarily have any subject matter expertise at the county to determine and negotiate pilots on solar farms. And while we're jumping ahead to the floor resolution, in some part, it's relevant for the understanding, is you'll see that that pilot was Warren County following the lead of the town of Queensberry through their negotiations, which is terms substantially less than the improvement value that will occur to the property as a result of that particular project. So when you opt out, like has been mentioned, the Queensberry School District has opted out. What you're saying is, first, that the property is not going to receive no increase in taxes because of its improvement, which is what happens if you don't give notice in 60 days. And you're saying that you're not giving a reduction in taxes for the solar farm. They're going to pay the amount that's assessed to that property as their fair share of the county tax bill. And the individual towns will either have opted out or not opted out. And those who do not opt out are free to negotiate for a lower tax rate through a pilot for that project.
Any other questions? Anybody else who hasn't spoken? It'll be Supervisor McGowan and then Supervisor Liggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. As you said, Mr. Allen, that it is confusing. My question is that the towns negotiate the tax, which is rightfully so. But in the effort of the town doing, like, for instance, Queensberry, and I'm not picking on Queensberry, but fortunately, Queensberry has a very low tax rate. So, let's just say, for instance, for the town of Queensberry, on my house, I pay $250. All right, but the county tax, I pay $1,250. So the county's tax is much higher than the Queensberry taxes. So the Queensberry tax, like for this particular one, they say $1,400 for one yearly payment. But that doesn't sound fair for the rest of the county taxpayers
that pay 5 times as much. So I have a little problem with understanding that. I understand the towns can do that, but the reflection is that the county should be getting more. 5 times, well, not 5 times that amount, but you know what I'm saying? Or they should be getting the majority of the tax deduction. Am I confused here? I mean, we're running allowing this solar farm, any solar farm to come in and do the negotiations. All right, so we get a one-time pilot payment for 15 years of $1,400. Based on Queensbury town tax. Now, Glens Falls town taxes or city taxes are different, just, everybody has a higher rate. Queensbury has the low one, so. I don't think it's fair for the rest of the county. Taxpayers, but the town has such a low assessment on that property for a profit producing company to come in. If it was a non-for-profit, I can understand, but this is for money and all the other incentives that they get. So I don't know. Do we have any say at all as a county or whatever entity?
We're trying to get you an answer.
Well, I think the answer is, if I understand the full question from the supervisor from Queensbury, is if local law 3 of 2023 passes, a future solar farm is going to pay 100% of their county tax bill based on the actual assessed value of that property once they build out their solar farm. That's what local law 3 of 2023 does. It takes us out of the exemption that's present under the real property tax law, so that for purposes of the county tax, the property is treated like every other property in the county of Warren. If local law 3 of 2023 is not passed, then when a solar farm gives notice to the county, first, if the county doesn't respond in 60 days, none of the increase in value from that project will be included in the taxable value for the property.
No, I understand that part of why we have it. Okay, but
So I'm trying to walk through step by step each of the possibilities. The third and final possibility is that if local law 3 of 2023 is not enacted, that the county gives notice of an intention to negotiate a pilot, which is required by the statute. And then the process starts of determining how much of the improvement value should this entity pay for the next 15 years on an annual basis, which is less than the full appraised value of the property, like every other taxpayer in the county. And my purpose is only to use the town of Queensbury as an example, but the town of Queensbury has not enacted a local law to opt out of that exemption, and they choose to engage in individual negotiations for more than the value of the property without any of the improvements included, and less than the full value of the property with all of the improvements included. And that's their right as a municipality, as with every other town in the county. But local law 3, if it's enacted, sets at full taxation for the property for these projects when they come forward in any municipality in Warren County. For the county tax portion, it does not impact the towns or village or arguably the city of Glens Falls in their tax for their municipality.
It's just for the town, it's just for Warren County tax. Supervisor Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to reconcile, my first question was,
does this preclude giving any pilots? And then two supervisors from Queensbury alluded to that there is still a chance for it, but your explanation again goes back. No, there is no negotiations for pilots whatsoever if this is passed.
And that's correct, because there's no need to negotiate because the exemption doesn't apply. Therefore, it's just treated as every other property in the county for purposes of the tax, county tax.
Lexi would like to address the board real quick, I think. Lexi Delore, real property tax.
Working for the county. Each individual town would have to pass their own local law if they choose to opt out of this exemption. So if a pilot came into, say, the town of Chester for solar, you would have to negotiate with them on a town level if you do not opt out of this, if you stay into the 487. County's choosing to opt out so that we will get the full tax benefit. Otherwise, somebody at the county, I'm assuming somebody in the county attorney's office would have to go to the table and negotiate each individual one of these as they came through, if we stay in. So, you know, well, I guess I'm just trying to say that we're only acting for the county. Remember, as a town, you would have to act for yourself.
Thank you. I saw a couple of hands up, Supervisor Stroud and then Supervisor Wild.
Again, the school opted out of 487, and when I queried them about that, they said, yes, but John, we can still negotiate a pilot. You can still negotiate a pilot. They can come to the county and still negotiate a pilot. Let's make that clear. 487 does not say we're not going to sit down and give you a pilot program. They still have the option to come into the county and say, would you consider a pilot program?
Supervisor Wild, oh, did you want to respond to that?
Under real property tax law 487. If the county opts out, meaning they're not going to, they're actively making the decision that the exemption doesn't apply, that's in that statute, there's no pilot agreement that can be negotiated under that statute. I cannot give any advice as to any other authority that another municipality or a school district may have to negotiate a pilot through some other area of law. But as far as the actions that's before the board today and the local law that's proposed, if it's passed, Warren County will not have any reason or right to negotiate a pilot for the tax exemption that's in this state statute. I am not prepared, and I'm not aware of the county negotiating under some other provision for a pilot on this type of project based on some other statutory authority. But I'm very clear that upon enacting this local law to opt out of this statute, that there's no negotiations for a lower tax rate for a particular project. We will be treating all projects the same, which is at their full assessment value based on the improvements that they make to the property.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm really confused because I've heard multiple times through the discussions with the idea that you could negotiate. Is there a chance we can put this on hold until next month? And if that's not a good idea, we understand why, what the urgency is.
If I could just address, I don't take any position on the request from the supervisor. I just note that this action has no bearing and no impact on the Warren Washington Industrial Development Agency, any of their laws or their statutes. This statute that we're opting out of we're only opting out of the portion that applies to Warren County, that impacts Warren County's ability to tax the project. And that does not mean that some other entity like an IDA may not give tax benefits or tax breaks. We're only opting out of, if it's passed, we only are opting out of section 487 of the real property tax law. That doesn't bind any other municipality in any way, shape, or form.
Supervisor Stroud.
Um, I would second, Supervisor Wild's, motion to table. There is some disagreement amongst us as to what exactly exempting out of 487 means. I've heard conflicting opinions from people whose opinion I highly value. And I would just like to get to the bottom of it before we vote on it, so that we're all clear going forward.
I think we'll get the resolutions, and then when it comes to resolutions, if you wish to table, someone can make a motion when we're talking about resolutions. Is there any other discussion at the public hearing? Supervisor McGowan.
Just want to clear something up. That I'm confused, and I kind of agree, from my partner from Queensbury, that we ought to table this. Because I'm totally confused, but if a town or the city negotiates a price, that is based on that town, but the county has a full value assessed price to the property. Is that what I'm hearing?
Attorney Allen.
Want to answer that?
If this local law was to pass, then yes, our taxes would be based on the full value
County.
County.
for the county, correct? Because we're only dealing with just the county. Each individual town would do their own negotiating, or the schools.
So then we have to assess that property.
No, the
No.
assessor puts the value on the property or the project in that town. The assessor in the town of Queensbury, Terry Ross, she did a lot of the negotiating along with their town attorney for this project. Well, for not this local law, but for the AC Power project to come up with those values
All right.
that they would be paying.
Just for clarification, if I may, because this particular project, $1,400 is what Queensbury negotiated. Okay, but
Please,
that's not their assessed value. That was just their pilot program that they agreed to.
That's how much that under the contract and the pilot that was entered into by AC Power with the town of Queensbury, the first year's pilot payment, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, is $1,400. And then it increases 2% each year for the next 15 years.
Right. But the county would assess it at full value of, say it was worth $5,000.
Well, no. $1,400 is not the property value. $1,400 is the payment amount that's agreed to between town of Queensbury and the developer of the solar project. If local law 3 of 2023 is passed today, that would mean a future project would pay the taxes to the county based on the full assessment value after the project is built. So if it's farmland or if it's vacant land and it has a taxable assessed value of X, the amount of that would be assessed for taxes if we opt out of this section will be X plus the full value of the solar farm that's built, which is the same way that taxes are assessed on other properties throughout the county of Warren. We assess on the full assessed value minus any exemptions. So the law that's in front of you, what it basically says is that the county is making a determination to tax the solar project the same has other properties in the county, because we're not going to authorize the exemption that's in this particular statute.
Right. Last word, Supervisor Stroud.
It gets a little bit more complicated. Instead of assessed value, solar companies are desiring to use a megawatt standard in lieu of the assessment. Now, what we did was we negotiated a per megawatt amount that would be equivalent to 50% of our taxes. We were happy with offering 50% of our taxes because we do want to provide incentives to green energy. Yet at the same time, we want something from the solar company on behalf of the town. Now, this also make it even more complicated. Does not include district taxes, fire, EMS, water, sewer, street lights, whatever the district might be. They have to pay the full amount there. There's no negotiation. So where we ended up at the end of the day is the question: if the county opts out of 487, it does not prohibit the county from negotiating an agreement with the solar company. The solar company is still allowed to come to the county and say, we'll use the town and negotiate amount. It could be a pilot or some other kind of negotiation. That's where we're not clear. But to get back to my original statement, it's not based on assessment, it's based on a per megawatt amount.
For the negotiation, not for the county. If we accept this local law number 3, we would be based on the value that Terry puts on the property.
It doesn't prohibit solar company from coming to the county and asking the county if they were to be open to a discussion of a pilot.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm saying that we need to do more research on that, because I'm not seeing it and Larry's not seeing it either about the negotiation, them being able to still come to us and negotiate. If we opt out, we're saying, no, we're not offering this exemption to you. Therefore, we do not have to go to the negotiation table.
I said, I heard very valuable sources, a bit different story. All that Mike Wild and I are asking for is that we give it another month to do some research before the board considers it. We'll bring that up to appropriate.
Well, if I could just comment, there's no more research the county attorney's office is going to do on that question, because the answer is abundantly clear that if we opt out, if the county opts out of section 487, there's no pilot agreements that we negotiate, because we're taxing the property at the full assessment amount, like any other property.
Supervisor Bramer.
Just quickly, like any good attorney, I have a different opinion. I do this work in my private practice, and we do offer pilots, but then we have to opt back in. It's ridiculous. You do this game where you opt back in and then you offer the pilot and you opt back out. I'm just saying that is an opportunity, but we don't have to do it.
Okay, then I would like to close this public hearing, and then if you so choose, when we do resolutions and you want to table it, we'll table it when we do the resolutions. Okay, all right, we'll declare this public hearing closed. We'll go on to report by chairs. The chairman's report for the month: attended all the committee meetings, attended a workshop with Glens Falls Transportation and CDTA. We had a labor management meeting where we discussed different labor management cases, at least one. Attended a meeting with Mayor Collins to discuss the Glens Falls Transportation proposal. Attended the APA local government meeting in Warrensburg, hosted the Adirondack Association of Towns and Villages meeting in Warrensburg, and more meetings. I went out tour of the communications center during this was the National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. We had a good tour of our Geoeducation Center and the fine work they do there. Last Monday, the 17th, I attended the New York State Planning Federation Conference in Saratoga Springs. Our county planner, Wayne Lamoth, was given the Hesselbettel Award for Planning Excellence. And Wayne was nominated by some people in his group and he won the award for Planning Excellence. So congratulations to Wayne Lamoth. And then when I attended the last public safety meeting of Criminal Justice, Public Safety and Health Services, discussed SPCA of upstate New York. And that's my report for the month. Supervisor Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Health Services met on March the 22nd. As a result of that, we have resolutions 195 through 200 that all deal with public health issues. I'm not going to read those all over. I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but I would appreciate your support on those. And then our committee will meet again next week. Thank you.
Supervisor Drossy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Safety and the Criminal Justice Committee met on March 22nd. And before you, we have resolutions 184 through 192 for your consideration. Most of them are regarding agreements for our Sheriff's Department, including 2 intermunicipal agreements with the town of Bolton and town of Chester for the installation of radio towers. So ask for your support on those. I also ask for your support on resolution 215, which will appoint a part-time office specialist in the Office of Emergency Services. I've met several times with our director, Marie, and I'm absolutely convinced that that additional person will greatly assist her in the effective management of her office. So I ask for your support. Thank you.
Supervisor Smith, any comments?
No, have fun learning a lot, drinking too much coffee.
Supervisor Duffy.
You'll learn. The Occupancy Tax Committee had a meeting on the 22nd of March. We passed 3 resolutions, 207, 208, 209. The contracts we have for OCTAX. And that's it.
Supervisor Martino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tourism is going to meet this coming Tuesday, hopefully with a new director. And so I'm asking you for support of floor resolution 1 and floor resolution 2, so we can start off on the right. Thank you.
Supervisor Stroud.
Legislative rules and government operations met March 23rd, and resolutions 203 and 206 rise out of that meeting and are before you today. Thank you.
Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Personnel Administration and Higher Education met on March 30th. 215, Supervisor Grassi mentioned that. It's on the list. 216 is for updating fees to our forensic services for the coroner's office. 217 through 220 are related to our application and request to the state for our semi-annual mortgage tax. 221 and 222 contractual agreements with our union and the sheriff's office. And 223 is a temporary positions for a summer youth program head by Liza for our workforce development organization. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor McGowan, any comments?
No report, thank you.
Supervisor Rady.
No report.
Supervisor Stat.
No report.
Supervisor Thomas.
No report, thank you.
Supervisor Runyon.
No report.
Supervisor Conover.
Yes, Public Works, met on the 28th, represented in your packet by resolution 210 to 214. I believe they're all straightforward, couple of grant applications and receipts. So one from the Fire Tower Association for $500, I believe. One, I believe, from the front for $1,500. And that pretty much my report. Thank you.
Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance met on March 30th. There's 6 resolutions before you. Resolutions 178 and 179, then 224 through 227. On resolution number 178, the standards moving from code to code. But I just want to point out on the back page, page 2 of 2, that we're running through $170,000 of contingent funds. To today, we're basically at the bottom of the barrel on it.
Supervisor Diamond.
Oh, I'm not done yet. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry if that was so bad news there, but the 224 is for road fund projects. 225 is occupancy tax for promotion. That's for the Lake George event coordinator. The 226 is for unappropriated surplus to the Office of Community Services for exams. It's $300,000. This is a big bill that we never know as we come into the year of what it will be. This is mostly tied to one individual so far that we have to cover the cost of. And 227 is to reappropriate funds that were not spent in 2022 for planning. That is my report. Thank you.
Supervisor Docker.
No report, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor McDevitt.
No report.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you very much. The ARPA committee met on March 17th, and we have 4 resolutions in front of you today. I ask for your support. I want to highlight 2 of them. One is for the Community Services Board, another 111,000 approximately going to assist people with mental illnesses and other problems in our community. And that was one of the areas in our original survey out to the public that people said we really should be allocating money, ARPA money, to help these individuals in our community. So I'm proud to have given them over $1 million to help with this effort. And secondly, we have a late request, but an important one from the Office of Emergency Services to help fund upgrades and new equipment and materials and supplies for the marine rescue operations throughout the county. So that's $152,000 going to the Office of Emergency Services that they will use to help with those emergency entities in the county that provide services here. So that is the final allocation of the ARPA monies. We will probably not meet again for a little while, but we would like to bring the committee back again to look at any issues that may arise as we're doing the reporting. And if any entities are not able to use the money that we have allocated to them, we would look at possibly reallocating that. But I want to again thank the committee members and thank this board for all of their support throughout the last couple of years, helping us get this money out. And I will say that I've been following what some of the other counties are doing, and we are a little bit ahead of the curve, and we got our money out there, got it to the community and put it to great work. And I'm really proud of all of us and for having done that for our community. Thank you.
Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. County facilities met on March 23rd, 2023. We had no resolution put forward as a result of that meeting, but I would like to highlight a couple of items from that meeting just for the board's information. Number one, the solar farm at the airport received approval for the northern site, and they're still waiting approval for the southern site, and then the waiting period after that approval before they could begin construction. The air show that is proposed, the county received first draft contract changes. There would be 3 air shows, with one being held every 2 years. Additionally, the Joseph Warren Museum, the Bella Associates started field work. That's at the former Warren County Detention Center. Additionally, the regional morgue is being proposed. We have requested scope of services for 2 of the entities that Department of Public Works, Mr. Cajos has a container, but the one from Clark Patterson Lee, Mr. Cajos' company negotiated their proposed fee down potentially, and that contract will be awarded to them. Am I correct? Mr. Hazel?
He's correct. We had two proposals come in for the regional morgue. One was from Lavella, the other one was from Clark Patterson. Uh, Clark Patterson's Clark Patterson themselves and their subject to use it had much more experience in morgues than Lavella did. They both had experience, but Clark Patterson kind of outshined Lavella. They did come in at a higher proposal and we just negotiated that proposal down. They are one of our term agreement contracts, so we can do this under a LOA, and I will be discussing this at committee, looking for funding to move forward. I did have a conversation with Terry Como from the sheriff's office, and he said that Saratoga County has also been talking about doing a regional board. And Dr. Sickericker reached out to us the other day, and he said that, you know, to get things moving forward, we should probably act sooner than later, because if not, what's going to end up happening is Albany Med, since they've kind of reached out to Glens Falls, Saratoga now, are going to swallow this all up down in Albany. And then that would leave us having to take all their reports or all the autopsies and such down there. So, we will discuss it more at SOTUS committee meeting.
Additionally, we had the design update front entrance. And
So the discussion that we had during committee was for, since I am short on staff right now, to reach out to one of our term agreements as well, which you'll see in the resolutions today. We've awarded to 7 different firms, and they all have different abilities to perform work for us. And with that being said, we've reached out to one of the ones that was from before in our term agreements, who is also on this new one, that will start working on a design planning for the front end. But it's not just going to include the front entrance, it's actually going to include the kind of the county center, at least at the front as a whole, because we've always discussed that the entrance off of Route 9 is not the best scenario with the slip ramps coming in there. This ring road around the front, except for supervisors parking out there, it no longer gets used for anything else. The only people that come in the front entrance now are supervisors or somebody who has a key fob. Nobody else comes through that entrance. So we're talking about making a little bit more green space there, but we want to make sure that we tie it together as a whole, that we're looking at the whole campus. I want to have to come back 5 years and say, well, we should have done this, that, or the other thing. So we're going to look at the whole campus as a whole part of the project.
thank you, Superintendent Hazel. One more item, the magnetometers that are considered for installation at the entrance to DMV. Still waiting on the unit to be transferred towards. That is it for my report.
Supervisor Driscoll. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Human Services Committee met on March 22nd. From that came resolutions 201 and 202, both are agreements for Countryside. I asked for your consideration on those. Last week, Commissioner Hanchett from DSS should have emailed you their monthly newsletter along with Countryside. John Bowe, the interim executive director of Cornell Cooperative Extension of Warren County, dropped off their monthly newsletter on your desks earlier this morning prior to the meeting. Yesterday morning in Glens Falls, I had an opportunity to attend the Lake George Regional Convention and Visitors Bureau monthly meeting. I try to get to those during the course of the year. They produced a long, I think 8 or 10 page list of their convention calendar. Many of those involved sites in Glens Falls, or activities and special events in Glens Falls and throughout the county. One in particular that's going to take place, and I'm going to be presenting at that, is the American Gold Star Mothers Convention at the Holiday Inn in Lake George this coming weekend, next Friday, Saturday, and I think Sunday. The estimated economic development, economic impact
on that convention is more than $150,000. In my house, that's big money. And there's a lot of conventions and activities, both scheduled and in the works, including I spoke to Gina Minster about the opportunity to maybe get a pickleball tournament in Warren County. She said it's something that her sports management person is already starting to explore, thinking outside the box. But I know that there's a pickleball tournament at my second home at Fenway Park in Boston this summer. And I'm sure it's going to bring a lot of economic impact to that region. Last night, I had the opportunity, along with Supervisor Stroud, to attend the Saga City banquet at Queensbury Hotel. There were probably 75 to 80 guests, including 19 members of the Saga City delegation. They're expected here between 1 and 1:30. If any members of the board and others are interested in hanging around, real interested group of men and women. And it was a very good ceremony, and they're going to have a full plate of activities. And I think they're in Glens Falls and during Glens Falls this morning, and again they'll be up here this afternoon. I received an email from the city of Glens Falls yesterday. The city is one of 64 communities throughout the United States selected to receive historic federal funding. That's federal funding that goes towards innovative infrastructure projects. Certainly something that the city of Glens Falls never has enough to meet their needs, and I'm very happy to report that. A week or two ago, I think all supervisors should have received a blue envelope from the New York Department of Health. It's a comprehensive tobacco control program survey. I would encourage people to complete that and send it back into the Department of Health. And then finally, on Monday, I'm going to be attending along with some of my colleagues, the annual Crime Victims Memorial Ceremony at the Supreme Court building at 9:30. That event hasn't taken place during the last 3 years, and it's a real moving and powerfully inspiring ceremony. I encourage people to make that. Thank you.
Supervisor Leon?
Just to jump back to that, what Mr. Hagels was, I don't know if he was pushing us or not, but to lose this morgue here that we've been working on for quite a while. I mean, I think we should really decide whether we want to really push ahead before we lose it. I mean, it'd be a big loss to us and moving it all down to Albany area. But I just don't know the whole situation. Are we staying with it, or are we gonna just, that's just my question.
Supervisor Bruno?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In response to that, yes, we are moving ahead with it. We, as I said, we will be signing an agreement contract with Clark Patterson Lee for the development of that, design of that. Additionally, because of what Mr. Como, the sheriff, stated to Superintendent Hagels regarding Saratoga considering one, and if that doesn't come to fruition, and ours doesn't, or even if it does, before then, Albany Med may grab the whole thing, which would not be good for anybody north of there, because we'd all have to send everything through there at quite an increased expense. That's part of the rationale for developing this, is to hold costs down with respect to forensic autopsies, et cetera. So to answer your question, yes, we are moving ahead, and we will be having a meeting. Mr. Hagel?
Supervisor Molino, I'm not pushing. I'm just saying that's what Dr. Sikorica had told us, that's what could happen if we don't move forward. I think it would be a good plan on our behalf if Chairman Garrity and John Taplin, our county administrator, reached out to Saratoga County, because Saratoga County could become a partner with us in this, while we're also looking at many other counties to be a partner in this as well. But if Saratoga County is really discussing this at this time, then we should probably reach out to them and have that conversation with them.
But we do need to move ahead with some things.
Yes. And that's why we're moving ahead with Park.
All right. Any other questions on that? Okay, you have a question on the more, yes, we need.
A little concerned hearing that, like I said, it's brought up, I don't know, close to 4 years ago on starting this, and now we're getting to the point where we got everything cleaned up. Unfortunately with government, everything moves. But, they hear this, so, in front of us, it was that we should reach out to some of the other counties, at least letting know what's going on, but then it was said, well, we need a conceptual plan. So now, this week, I imagine it's on our committee list, to get a proposal in from whatever one we decide, and then then we have to wait from, a month from now for our next board meeting to approve it. And then, it's gonna take another, week or so to get that, and then it's gonna take probably another 2 months to get the proposal back. So, I like to, I work for myself. I like to move a little quicker sometimes than what the government does, but just putting it out there, my friend.
Report county administrator.
County Administrator Kaplan can be here today, so I'll share his report for the month. On March 20th, we met to rewrite the county remote work policy. The objective is to make it a little less complex and easier for department heads to make decisions on who can work remotely, when and how much, with a simplified approval form. March 21st, initial meeting with PSBA to reach agreement on new contract, conducted initial tourism director interviews, interviewed by candidates and selected 3 for second interviews by the personnel committee. On the 23rd of March was the annual meeting of the Labor Management Committee, reviewed and made a determination on an employee grievance as required by the process outlined in the CSEA contract. On the 27th of March, second meeting with Washington County about SUNY Adirondack funding, reached a tentative agreement on a funding profile that increases funding for SUNY Adirondack to reach the 33% local share funding goal in 5 years. There'll be a joint meeting of both personnel and higher education and finance committees at SUNY Adirondack on May 5th. We anticipate a presentation to the full Board of Supervisors on May 19th. 27th of March, Health Insurance Working Group met. Presentation by Marshall and Sterling on year-to-date claims experience and potential cost savings initiative for the coming plan year. On the 28th of March, met with the Chairman, Mayor Collins, and Scott Sopcich, the Commissioner of Greater Glens Falls Transit, to discuss the Warren County becoming a member of CBTA. A follow-on meeting is scheduled for next week with CBTA. On May 29th, the second meeting with the PSBA, agreement reached, and resolution number 222 is in your packet today. April 3rd, met with Supervisors Runyon and Thomas and Thurman and Stony Creek. On April 5th, had a meet and greet with the officers of CSEA. They'll enter negotiations with them in the fall for a contract in 2024. On the 7th of April, attended the hazard vulnerability analysis that was led by the Office of Emergency Services, brought together leaders from across the county to assess county vulnerability and readiness to respond to a number of natural and man-made disasters. On April 10th, met with Beth Gillis and Dave O'Brien of the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board in their Lake George office to get an overview of their operation. On April 11th, he attended the Lake George Chamber of Commerce and CVB board meeting, had a great discussion about future collaborative tourism-related efforts that we can partner on. He'll take the new tourism director to the next meeting. On April 12th, the county attorney and John visited the mental health department for an overview and opportunity to talk to their employees.
On April 17th, attended the New York Planning Foundation Luncheon that recognized Wayne Lamont with the Heisenbutel Award for Planning Excellence. It's a well-deserved award, and we received numerous comments about Wayne's contribution for the year. On April 17th, he met with Saratoga County Administrator to discuss performance of CDTA in Saratoga County. Their contribution to CDTA is between $3 and $4 million, and they have about the same number of bus routes that we have here in Warren County. Saratoga has a very positive view of CDTA performance and service. On April 18th, we had an initial meeting about the Warren County website. In case you were not aware, the current website, it's not particularly easy to use on a smartphone, especially job listing site, which is the most prominent way the newer generation search for jobs. On April 18th, again, there was a joint meeting of Criminal Justice and Public Safety and Health Services Committee to discuss the future of SPCA of upstate New York, which is the only shelter that accepts dogs in our county. All town dog control officers that are required for New York State statute rely on the shelter. A work group was identified to release an RFP and review proposals for services they provide. And that is John's report.
Okay, report of county attorney.
Good morning. My report today really consists of one matter which will require an executive session. And I would ask that with the permission of the chair, that the board defer that to the end of the meeting, as it may take a little time to work through. And that's my report for this month. Subject to any questions. Thank you.
Reading of communication.
We have the Warren County Commissioner of Jurors Annual Report for 2022.
Reading of resolution.
Proposed resolution numbers 178 through 227, as well as 7 proclamations and 4 floor resolutions were distributed to members of the Board of Supervisors, posted to the Warren County website on Tuesday, April 18th, 2023, which met the requirements of the rules of the board. Proclamations before you are number 12, National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, number 13, Crime Victims' Rights Week, number 14, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, number 15, Mental Health Awareness Month, number 16, Donate Life Month, number 17, Law Day, and number 18, Saga City Day. There are 4 resolutions. A motion is needed to bring each one to the floor. First is the motion to bring floor resolution number 1, which is waive the rules for number 2.
They want to make a motion? Supervisor Driscoll, second by Supervisor Smith, to bring floor resolution number 1 to the board. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Floor resolution number 1 is now resolution number 28. Motion to bring floor resolution number 2.
Motion by Supervisor Wiles, second by Supervisor Runyon, bring floor resolution number 2 to the floor. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Floor resolution number 2 is now resolution 229. Motion to bring floor resolution number 3, which is waiving the rules for number 4.
Supervisor Raymer made the motion.
I have a question first. And I'm sorry that our county attorney is not here. If we pass this, or if we don't pass it today, would they be subject to the law that is opting us back out? Larry?
Sorry.
Yes.
So my question for you is, if we were not to enter into a pilot with AC Power today, and we pass the local law opting out, is AC Power going to be subject to full taxation?
Absolutely not. Their application predates any local law that we enact. So our only recourse with AC Power is to move forward with a pilot agreement. Otherwise, the county receives no tax benefit from any of the improvements that are going to occur from their solar project in Queensborough.
Okay, I'll have further discussion, but I will make a motion to move for resolution number 3.
Okay, motion made by
To waive
Supervisor
rules.
Bramer, second by Supervisor Bruno. Any discussion, any further discussion? All those in favor to bring forward resolution number 3?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so floor resolution number 3 is now number 230, and then the motion to bring floor resolution number 4.
Or motion by Supervisor Bruno, do we have a second? Second by Supervisor Smith. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye. Floor resolution number 4 is now resolution 231. I would note that in your index, resolution number 185 is marked as being a roll call, but that is not correct unless someone wants it. It will not be a roll call vote.
Which one was that?
185. Thank you.
Further discussion on, and public comment on it, any, proposed resolutions. I'll go to public first. Anybody from the public wish to comment on any resolution? Okay, now, board members, Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 217 through 220. Just help me to understand, why are we doing these for?
Is that
Mortgage tax.
the home rule is, it's because they changed the, rules and I think it used to be a 3-year term, now it's a 2-year term, so we have to amend and this. So we're amending the old rule, correct?
We're rescinding
Rescinding the
two of
old.
them and replace, I think it's because of the home rule. We want,
Yeah, we have to rescind the old ones and then we're past new.
okay. And that, again, the new ones in term home rule. So that's why we're doing it, right? In other words, so
They all do.
they all do.
The ones we're rescinding, after we enacted them, the legislature made a decision to change the time period, which now requires us to change the time period and resubmit so that we can get these enacted before the current additional mortgage recording tax expires in December.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on Supervisor Leggett?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, on those ones that Supervisor Bruno just mentioned. Would be helpful to put the percentage rate in there of what the increase in mortgage tax would be for the record.
Attorney Elman?
We are providing to our representatives specifically what they've asked us to provide them. So I'm hesitant to change it because it's what we've been asked to provide them.
Not a problem.
Like, so there's clarity for them. It is the 25 cents per $100 of a assessed of value on the mortgage that's being filed, which is an additional 0.25% over the 1% for those following at home.
Any other discussion on Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, 203. Approving the Warren County policy against discrimination and harassment. I read through that, and I just had a question on it. Does this include the protecting the supervisors, especially for like nutbag bloggers out there that bring in false statements and write stuff that's not true? Does that protect us against bloggers like that?
To answer the question by the supervisor from Queensberry, the modifications to this policy were extremely limited. I don't want to say the specific number of words, but it might have been about 10 words that were modified. And the purpose is this policy is designed to protect a category of individuals which are considered employees. And the current existing policy applied it to everybody in the general public, meaning even though discrimination and harassment claims are a state law and a federal law matter, the prior policy allowed any member of the general public from anywhere to file a discrimination and harassment complaint in Warren County, which is just legally way beyond the scope of the protection that the state of New York provides to employees. And there's a whole bunch of different categories, all the way down to volunteers and independent contractors that fit in that definition. But the definition of employee never applies to general members of the public who are just out there and may feel offended by something that happens and therefore file a complaint under this policy. So we're trying to do some housekeeping to streamline and keep this policy in the scope that it's intended to be in by the state legislature.
So my question is, are we considered an employee? Board of Supervisors?
Of course, yes,
So we are protected under this harassment.
absolutely, and you always have been.
And that can protect us from the big bloggers out there.
I don't make any comment on the question. That's not a question I can
All right, thank you.
respond to.
Supervisor.
Thank you, Chairman. That was, my follow-up, County Attorney.
Supervisor Webb.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Regarding that, with the comments from the supervisors from Queensbury. One of the things that I was made aware of just a few weeks back was an article in USA Today. Freedom of speech. And there is a constitutional protection to basically say whatever you want. Right? And it applies in government meetings also. Not necessarily the decorum of the people here, but the people that come to these meetings have a right to speak and have their say. We need to remember that. Now, that doesn't mean we can't refute things that might be misrepresenting the fact that it's going on, but we can't stop people from their right to freedom of speech. Chairman, if anyone would like the copy of that article from USA Today, I'd gladly share it, whoever would like.
Discussion on resolutions. Supervisor Bramer.
think still on 203. Is that, I have a different one, okay. I just, in page 4, it does say in the definition section of sexual harassment that this definition encompasses favoritism between a supervisor and a subordinate based on an intimate sexual relationship or desire for same. And I'm wondering if that means that a supervisor, including not just us, but the people in supervisory roles in the county are or are not prohibited from having a sexual intimate relationship with a subordinate. And whether or not that meets the definition of sexual harassment situation.
What I can say with the utmost of confidence is that provision is not a provision that has been modified, changed, or amended in this copy. And I would be more than happy after the meeting to address that provision and that question from the supervisor. Because it is a provision that was in the existing policy and has not been, basically hasn't been touched by the revisions in this current policy.
Okay, I would appreciate a follow-up answer. May I, on a different one? On 204, it's my understanding that this is to delete the provision regarding needing a supermajority for creating positions. And I think that came into effect maybe just before I came on the board, when the county was having a lot of financial troubles at the end of the last, what do we call that? The Great Recession, 2010. I like to be fiscally responsible, and I would like to keep that in place so that we have a supermajority. So I'll be voting no on that 204.
Any other discussion on resolutions? Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, I'd like to go back to 203 and just clarify my words. I was not talking about freedom of speech. What I'm talking about is harassment. Right? That was the reason is there's a difference between freedom of speech and printing stuff that, you know, what you believe in, but the harassment is what I was pointing out for it more. So thank you.
Any other resolutions? Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, I'd like a roll call vote on 204. Right now, we don't have a roll call vote on that. So I recommend a roll call vote, and I also will be voting no on that. We make it so easy to add jobs, positions. cost the county taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars at the mere whim, some supervisors, I'm not comfortable with that. So if we're gonna add positions, let's have it do its full vetting, which is a full 2/3 of the board saying, yeah, that makes sense. But when we do a simple majority, that doesn't make sense to me. And obviously it was put in years ago for that safeguard. So I don't know why anyone on this board would want to go to a simple majority when we're asking the county taxpayers for every new position to take money out of their wallets to pay for these new positions when we're already the second largest employer in the county. So I'll be voting no on that. I hopefully my colleagues will see the common sense in that and also vote no to make sure that it's a 2/3 majority to approve of something to adding a new position. Thank you.
Supervisor.
Yes, resolution 204, if I'd like to clarify for Supervisor Beatty. My understanding of this resolution is not that we're adding positions, we're not adding new positions. This is to fill vacancies, which is existing positions that have been previously approved in the budget that was approved earlier in the year. And as long as the position is within the range of what the budget's provided for, my understanding is the department heads want to be able to move forward more quickly to be filling vacancies. So it's not necessarily a brand new position, which would definitely continue to come back to us. This is what I understand from county administrator and some conversation we've had in personnel committee. And anyone who's on the legislative rules or budget may want to also comment, but my understanding is this is to fill a replacement, not an additional add to the budget.
Supervisor Thomas.
Yes, I hate to contradict you, but I think this was for creating new positions, and it was my understanding that this was being done because it was basically not legal. Correct?
That is correct. The paragraph that was removed primarily was addressing the filling of positions. And the statement from the supervisor from Queensberry is correct on the filling of positions. If they're in the budget and they're funded, state statute says that the department head can fill that position. And there are no additional requirements that can be placed on that statutory authority to fill an existing and funded position during the budget year.
No, I want to hear what the rest of our county attorney has to say about the creating of the new positions being illegally.
Yes, the rest which we've addressed on a prior occasion of that paragraph was language that was in brackets that basically said that new positions can only be created by a 2/3 majority vote of the board. That's also been removed because state law does not permit a governing body to increase the vote to a 2/3 majority by resolution, which is what these rules of the board are. And the only way for Warren County to have a 2/3 majority vote requirement would be to pass a local law by referendum, putting it out to vote in the county. So because the rules of the board are and have always been passed by resolution, and that provision was added maybe around 2008 and 2009. Once I was asked to look at it and we did the legal research on it, it became very clear that it was not appropriately enacted. And therefore, it was removed in this version because you can't have a 2/3 majority vote requirement enacted by a resolution.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. It makes it hard for me to vote no on something our attorney is advising us we should delete because it's not legal. Are you, Mr. Elman, are you totally sure that we didn't pass a local law with a referendum possibility back in 0809?
I've checked it. I'm fairly sure. Yeah, we ran it through the clerk of the Board of Supervisors as well, and there was no record of any local law by referendum coming through Warren County during that time period.
So to be clear, so in 2008, we did something we illegally, basically. You passed a 2/3, you had to have 2/3 to accept any new position. By the way, I distinguished between new positions and filling vacancies. Supervisor. So we did something wrong in 2008. Supposedly, by not taking this out to the actual, asking the people in Warren County, do you want to make it tougher to add new positions? That being a referendum. We didn't do that. Okay, so now, the way I interpret this is, we need to strike that down, take that out, and make it a simple majority, or go out to the Warren County residents with a referendum saying, hey, do you want it tougher to hire new positions up at the second largest employer in the county? Or do you want to make it a simple majority of the supervisors? I think the county residents would probably overwhelmingly say, make it a little tougher. Make it a little tougher to keep adding jobs when we're going through close to a recession and inflationary conditions that are out of control. I think they'd be a little more in favor of all of us saying, hey, I'm not comfortable with a simple majority. I want a 2/3 full. That tells me that the full board has done their job and full vetting. So if you're asking, can we have a referendum? How would we go about getting a referendum that having the county residents vote on whether they want 2/3 to add any new position? How would that proceed? Should I ask you, county attorney, or should I ask you, Mr. Chairman, how that would proceed?
County attorney. I think.
More or less the way that you would move forward on a local law, except it would also have to include the referendum portion of it, the requirement for a referendum on it as well.
So,
They have to go on that general election ballot
okay.
throughout everybody in the county.
Right, and how would we go about proceeding with that? I mean, I heard him say that we have to go through the normal process. So what would be the normal process? I don't think I've been around.
Introduce a local law.
Pardon me?
I think we'd have to.
So
bring-
this board would have to initiate a local law asking for referendum for the county residents to be able to vote whether they want new positions to be simple majority or 2/3.
Then it would go on the ballot in November.
Correct.
I apologize, I didn't understand. Process wise, it would go through a committee.
Committee. And get it on the ballot.
Public hearing.
I think. Hearing that the local law is not. It's kind of just like they did with the redistricting.
Yeah.
So they have a local law, and it's passed, but it's not really effective until after it's passed on the general election. So it'd be the same thing here, we'd introduce a public hearing, or introduce a local law for the public hearing, adopt the local law, but it wouldn't be officially adopted until it passes by public referendum, and goes on a ballot. So you'd probably wanna, I would, from an administrative process, I would hope that you would do that later in the year, because we number our local laws consecutively, and then if it doesn't pass the referendum, then it's no.
Sure. So your recommendation would be later in the year?
I would say you need to take it to the committee first.
Committee.
and then- So I would say it would be a resolution.
Supervisor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe this even became an issue until more recent times. I mean, we are a governance of majority rule. And we have a packet here full of all kinds of actions and expenditures. And over the course of the year, they go to $150 million. The state law does specify, however, that there's certain provisions of our conduct that do require what's called supermajority. I believe borrowing, for example. Borrowing. To turn any government into a governance by minority rule is a huge mistake. Talk about bringing any governance to a grinding halt. But that's what you would end up with. And we adopted an entire budget and all the expenditures and all the positions in the budget for the majority vote. My only other comment would be on the local law dealing with solar, waiting on. And I would ask, all the supervisors pull that up. It's a very short section on solar. I think it's very easy reading, it's clear to understand it. And it will make the discussion, I think, a lot better going forward if everyone would just take a quick look at that section. Because I think that the thing in that section that concerns me the most is the part where upon notification by the developer, we have 60 days to respond. The taxing jurisdiction, and it doesn't really specify how that notification is to be made, at least not based on my reading. I mean, you need to understand that there are sections of the tax law that businesses can apply to an assessor that are automatic. It's a sliding scale kind of thing. We don't act on it, the municipality doesn't act on it, it's embedded in the law, like an incentive kind of thing. Start at 50%, 5% each year, up to 100%, whatever. This provision of the law excludes those improvements. When it goes into the assessor, and it's the town assessor that does the assessment on the property in Warren County that applies to all taxing jurisdictions, it tells the town assessor that under this law, these improvements are to be excluded. Are to be excluded. So if we don't opt out of this, then those improvements are excluded unless either of the taxing jurisdictions provide written notification to whoever the applicant is within that 60-day period. No, we're going to require a pilot. So read the section. If I'm in error in my recitation of the section, I'd be happy to be informed. But I think that, you know, I support this legislation and I look forward to it returning. Thank you.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. In relation to Supervisor Conover's discussion about Resolution 194, I'd like to state that because of the fact that opting out may limit us from doing anything, it creates an issue where maybe brownfields or something like that, we do want to offer opportunities for solar and wind projects, even though wind's probably not viable here. So in that thought, I'd like to have a motion to table
You have a motion
194
to table
until next month.
194. We have second by Supervisor Stroud to table 194.
One brief comment. The section does speak to improvements other than solar not being excluded within this. So my point is, let's read the section so that we're all on the same sheet of music, and then we can discuss it. Have a much better discussion on this.
Let's vote on the motion to table. Go roll call.
On the motion to table resolution number 194, excuse me, Mrs. Frazier,
No.
Mr. Drossy,
No.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Dickinson,
No.
Mr. Merlino,
No.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
No.
Ms. Steph,
No.
Mr. Thomas,
No.
Ms. Runyon,
No.
Mr. Conover,
No.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
No.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
No.
Mr. Bruno,
No.
Mr. Driscoll,
No.
Chairman Garrity.
No.
Okay, the motion fails with only 359 votes.
Any discussion, further discussion on resolution? Supervisor Stroud.
Yeah, I want to say on 194, we're going to be voting on this. And the way it came out of committee is not the understanding that we have today. All right, that's fine. But New York State, and I'm reading from, I was doing some research on it. And Supervisor Kramer is entirely right. The 487 encourages the growth of New York's renewable energy systems, making projects more financially viable. And that is the first purpose of 487. If you keep 487, it is easier to go to a pilot program because then you don't have to go through the processes, as Supervisor Kramer pointed out, rescinding and then pilot and then rejoining afterwards if that's your decision. So right now, if you went to full value, you are going to deter solar systems locating in Warren County And that includes every municipality in Warren County. I will be voting against this, given what I learned today.
Supervisor Brady?
There's a reason that solar companies want to come and do business in New York State. They get federal financing, they get state financing, and then they go to the local taxpayers and says, hey, will you kick in money too? These are for-profit businesses. They add 0 jobs. They don't pay sales tax. They do pay property tax, but they want payment, they want pilots on that. So to me, if one solar company says, you know, I'm not gonna come now, if Warren County doesn't cough up money for me, I'm not coming. If you don't give me a tax break, there's 10 more right behind them begging. Because of the federal and state funds. These are private businesses. If their business model doesn't allow them to make money without us in Warren County coughing up money or giving them huge breaks, then so be it. It's not a good business model. I mean, this is business to me, something that some supervisors haven't been in before, but I have. And the fact of the matter is that this isn't a sound business model for a company. It's not a sound business model, but asking for other people to foot and their bill by giving them tax breaks to make their business model workable is simply not common sense. So, you know, we never address the other facts in that. Solar panels, the vast majority are made in China. We don't address the fact that after 20 years, they're a huge environmental risk and challenge, but we have no way of disposing of those panels. There's no policy, there's no procedures in place on how to get rid of these panels in 20 years. We just let that be an elephant in the room too. Now, I'm not against solar by any means, but let's use some common sense. I am against county taxpayers footing the bill. Yeah, I am against that. If their business model can't sustain without all these federal breaks, with all these state tax incentives, and then asking our county residents on top of that to give them help, well, then so be it. They don't have a good business model. All right, so, let's see here. So that's my position on this. I am for solar, but I want it to stand on its own merits financially and not have us give away everything that we've, in Warren County, worked hard to achieve. So I think federal and state's enough. And the fact that there's no new jobs is very telling to me. So,
Any other discussion on 194? Supervisor Stout, 194?
Yes, 194. Solar companies, putting in a solar farm is extremely expensive. And they do need tax breaks to make it work. And that unfortunately is this. However, the properties that they usually select to locate in are usually otherwise undevelopable for whatever reason. For example, Sipagagi site. This is a perfect example of what should go on the Sipagagi site. It's a brownfield. It's not being used as sitting vacant. This could be used for a solar field. And if you give it tax breaks, it's more likely to be located at the solar field. Some of the properties around the airport are not developable any other way. But now we have an added value. The town and the county and the schools are gaining extra money because of what's located in the Sipagagi site. They're going to make more money because of what's located near the airport, and so forth, than other usually under or undeveloped properties are now being put to use and are offering the communities greater value. We need to encourage that. Thank you.
Discussion on 194.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think one of the things that we don't always consider is the fact that we represent every citizen in Warren County. And I'm referring specifically right now to the younger generation. They're enamored by electric cars. They want to help the environment. We need, as this board, to be considerate of those views also. As Supervisor Strong mentioned, there will be instances where there's opportunities where it does not create an issue for us to be able to give a pilot, to see the guy site. Wetlands, if we can get it through the, federal regulations or the like. Our landfills. Why aren't we allowing us the opportunity to take advantage and support development on those properties and probably others? So all I'm asking for is that we give ourselves the opportunity to say yes or no. Yes to those situations where it benefits the community from the standpoint of brownfields or what have you. Secondly, it benefits the younger generation. We're here to think, again, not just for ourselves, but for everyone in this community. And I'm sure you know, and there might be some here on this board that are driving electric cars. There's going to be a huge demand for electricity that cannot be met. And I'm not a proponent of nuclear energy. And I can go into that for some time about my experiences with nuclear energy. But this is something that we should consider, and that's why I asked for the tabling, so we can understand better about how to make this happen so it benefits everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Bramer, 194.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairman. You know, as I believe the youngest person on this board and someone who's about to speak at the Earth Day event tomorrow on climate change and its impacts to our community and how we should be working to combat climate change as much as possible for our future generations, including my young children. I am still going to support this, even though I am 100% behind solar energy, because I think that the county tax rate here is not such a deterrent to new solar projects being developed in our county. And right now, we already have Queensberry is opted out, and we still have, Queensberry School Board is opted out, and there are still projects coming here and being cited in Queensberry. So I don't think it's going to be that much of a deterrent. And I still think there is the possibility for us to offer pilots if there are projects that we really do want to incentivize on areas like our landfills. And there's nothing to say right now we can't do more for our own county lands to be developing solar projects on our own. And we have solar projects going into the airport, but don't we own landfill space? Don't we own places up at Countryside that are on a nice slope facing the sun? I mean, if we want to develop solar and be ready for electric cars and do other things to help us electrify our entire system, we can be doing that. And I'd be happy to bring that through the Environmental Concerns Committee immediately. Thank you.
Any other request for roll call vote? Okay, we vote on resolution?
I have one, sorry. Just one more. I would like a roll call on 209, which is, I believe, our honorable former mayor, Robert Blaze, and I respect him enormously. I do have concerns with the 3-year nature of the agreement and the county chipping in dollars to this over 3 years. So I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to vote on resolution.
Mr. Chairman,
Sorry, Supervisor.
I'd like to comment on Supervisor.
You can comment when we go to do the vote. Roll call
Okay.
vote, if you'd like.
Resolution 178, making supplemental appropriations. Mrs. Frazier? Yes. Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yeah.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Steck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
No.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 990 votes in favor. Resolution 179, amending Warren County budget for 2023. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yeah.
Ms. Steck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 1,002 votes in favor. Resolution 180, authorizing allocation of ARPA funding to the Warren County Office of Community Services. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Steck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yeah. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yeah.
Resolution passes with 1,002 votes in favor. Resolution 181, authorizing allocation of ARPA funding to the Warren County Office of Emergency Services. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yeah.
Mr. McGowan?
Yeah.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Steck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yeah.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 1,002 votes in favor. Resolution 182, authorizing allocation of ARPA funding to the Warren County Planning and Community Development Department. Ms. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Steck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yeah. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 1,002 votes in favor. Resolution 183, rescinding resolution 503 of 2022, which authorized ARPA funds to disbursement to Caritas and amending Warren County budget. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yeah.
Mr. McGowan?
Yeah.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Steck? Yeah. Mr. Thomas?
Yeah.
Ms. Runyon? Yeah. Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 1,002 votes in favor. Resolution 194, enacting local law number 3 of 2023 entitled a local law providing that no exemption under real property tax law section 487 be applicable within the jurisdiction of the county of Warren with respect to any solar or wind energy system or farm waste energy. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
No.
Mr. Wild?
No.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Steck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
No.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 777 votes in favor. Resolution 204,
We skip 185.
185 is incorrectly marked as a roll. Resolution 204, resolution altering standing rules of the Board of Supervisors. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yeah.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Remember we had
204.
204. No.
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Ms. Steck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? No. Mr. Bruno?
Yeah.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 779 votes in favor. Resolution 209, authorizing intermunicipal agreement with the Village of Lake George. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Very much, yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
McGowan?
With honor, yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Steck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yeah. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Sorry, Bob, no.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 957 votes in favor. Resolution 215, amending table of organization. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yeah.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Steck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
No.
Ms. Runyon? Yeah. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 990 votes in favor. Resolution 224. Establishing 2023 road projects and amending Warren County budget. Mrs. Frazier?
Yeah.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yeah.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Deck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 1,002 votes in favor. Excuse me. Resolution 225, authorizing appropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Deck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yeah. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yeah.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 1,002 votes in favor. Resolution 226, authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated surplus. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yeah.
Mr. Beatty?
Yeah.
Ms. Deck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yeah. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 1,002 votes in favor. Resolution 227, authorizing the reappropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated surplus to the planning budget. Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yeah.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Deck? Yes. Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yeah. Mr. Conover?
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
No.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yeah.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes with 957 votes in favor.
Collective, all those in favor of the other resolutions, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. We go to the floor. Anybody from the, yes, I know we need executive session. Anybody from the public with a comment?
Or is it?
Okay, we need a motion to go into executive session. Motion by, oh, did you want to comment?
Yeah.
Real quick.
I just want to let all the supervisors know that tomorrow is the household hazardous waste day up in Warrensburg. Although we wanted you all to register, any of your residents to register, we still have slots available if you want to bring your materials up there to tomorrow. So, and the next one will be held in August in Queensbury. Okay.
We need a motion to go to executive session. Motion by Supervisor Frazier, second by Supervisor Steck to go to executive.
If I could clarify that motion,
Yes, please.
that it's going to be to address a recommendation from the Board of Ethics regarding ethics complaint 2023-1 under Public Officer Law 105 subsection F. It's a matter that may lead to the promotion, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person.
Okay. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're going in executive session. Mr. Molino, please. Mr. Dickinson.
Can we please have